Welcome, everyone, to the L7C podcast. We have a special podcast for y'all today. Today, it is just me, Martin, the moderator, and we're doing, like I said, a special one. We're doing our annual Batman Day podcast. Last year when we started, I talked about Batman Day, answered some questions from y'all, the fans, and I'm going to be doing that again this year. If you want to get a history of how Batman Day came to be, I'll post the first Batman Day episode in the description of the podcast below. So just click on that. The Captain Byron Mitchell is the one who actually interviewed me for that one. Just a quick thing. Batman Day is always the third Saturday of September. So this time it falls on September 18th. Hopefully you guys are listening to this on Batman Day. If you are, happy Batman Day to all the Batman fans across the world. And the reason he got this day is because of his success as a global celebration phenomenon, one of the most timeless superheroes of all time, his popularity across the globe, TV, film, comics, 80 plus years. So he was able to get his own day where people express their love for Batman and which Batman's their favorite, all things like that. Again, if you want to listen to the whole history of it, go to the first one. Just another brief thing. It started in 2014 because that was Batman's 75th anniversary, and DC's like, oh, we have a thing. Like, this guy's worldwide. He's probably our most popular superhero that we've ever created. Let's make a day out of it. So that is how Batman Day came to be. So now I am a Batman expert. I got some questions from the crew to answer for y'all for Batman Day and some other questions I'll be talking about, so you can get your questions answered, learn some more things about Batman. So the first question that I actually got came from my boy, one of the L7C founders, Mr. Cedric Ware, who does the anime podcast at the Power Ranger podcast. Shout out to my boy Cedric. His first question was, how much does it cost Bruce Wayne to dress up as a Man-Bat, build, purchase all his gadgets, and pay Alfred to tuck the Boy Wonder in at night? So, Cedric, this was a very good question because it fluctuates with the money that Batman has from, let's say, the movies and, let's say, the comics. The movies try to make it a little bit more realistic. Movies, his net worth is about $7 to $9.5 billion. That's how much he is worth in like the movie real life spectrum. But in terms of money, Batman is actually rated, I think this was 2018, was the third most richest comic book character in the world, in the comics. Number one was Black Panther. Black Panther's net worth is about 90.7 trillion. Yeah, Black Panther is worth 90.7 trillion because of vibranium and things of that nature. Iron Man is number two. He is worth 100 billion, obviously with the weapons, and weapons is a very lucrative business. And that's something that Wayne and them didn't get into. And Batman's worth about 80 billion in like continuity comics of what's going on right now. Joker took his money in this newest run that's been happening, and they were said that Joker was worth over 100 million because he took Batman's money. So it's about 180 million. And the Injustice storylines, that's not really canon, but he's a trillionaire in there because he inherits all of Lex Luthor's stuff after stopping Superman from taking over the world. So he gets his money back and Lex Luthor's stuff, government stuff, and Injustice. So he's a trillionaire in that one. So we'll work from both. And then the 7 to 9.5 billion to the 80 billion. So we'll work from the 80 billion. So I got you on, I had to do some research, and these were all based on, we're going to use the Dark Knight trilogy because that's the best Batman trilogy out there. In my opinion, the best interpretation of Batman. If you want to know why, listen to our first episode. So we'll go from there. Cedric. So the graphite cowl that he wears is $1 million. The retinal projection system in his eye is $10K. The carbon fiber reinforcements on the chest and the plates is $1,150. The Kevlar Nomax bodysuit was $3K. The elbow pads were $150. The Kevlar groin armor is 1K. The forearm blades are 1K. Kevlar Nomax gloves 150. Kevlar Nomax knee pads 150. The memory cloth, how he glides, is 40K. Ultrasonic bat attractor, the thing that calls the bats in the Batman trilogy, that was 1K. And the Kevlar Nomax suit was 1K. If we go to the vehicles, the Tumbler, which is universally loved by a lot of people, the Tumbler is 18 million. So if you want a Tumbler, a real one, it costs 18 million in the Dark Knight universe. The Bat Pod, the motorcycle that pops out of the Tumbler, costs 1.5 million. And then the Bat, his flying mechanism that he flies in the Bat, costs 60 million. So then you go on to his trusty steed, Alfred, the residence of Wayne Manor. The cost of running it is about $37,000 per year. Alfred, Wayne Manor, and the Batcave combined, though, is about 600 million. Alfred has many different roles that he actually gets paid for differentially. So his butler role, which I guess you could say with Tucking in the Boy Wonder, he gets 80,000 for that a year. And then the estate manager taking care of the estate of Wayne Manor, he gets paid 150,000 a year. And then when he was a caretaker for Bruce Wayne while his parents were alive, he was getting paid around 55,000 a year. So Alfred's about over 200,000 a year of just being the butler and being the estate manager and obviously being the chair for Bruce Wayne's Batman. You go to some of the gadgets that he used in the Dark Knight. The total cost is $213,610. The grappling hook was $50,000. Laser microphone $50,000. Portable spectrometer $30,000. Thermal camera $15,000. Handheld grenade $6,000. Night vision $5,000. And then you got the batarangs of 3s. That's 1K. Exploding batarangs $1K. Remote detonating batarangs $1K. Long range microphone $1K. Grenade $600. Tear gas $600. GPS tracking device $500. Automatic lock pin $500. Periscope $300. Encrypted memory stick $250. So you're looking at total weapon cost from down there over 10K, but all the gadgets combined is over $213,610. And then if you want to put the training into it, his military training was $500,000. His special arms firearm training was $500,000. And his several engineering degrees that he has, all the degrees that he has, was about $500,000 in education. So you put the total cost of being Batman year round, and we're not even accounting food into that. We're not even accounting buying the fancy cars outside of like the Batmobile to put on the persona of Bruce Wayne. We're not talking about the suits because that does play a part in him being Batman, having that alter ego. But just the stuff I listed, the total cost of being Batman, paying Alfred to tuck the Boy Wonder, all that stuff is $682,450,750. So I'll say that again, $682,450,750. That is the cost of being Batman and paying every Alfred, tucking the Boy Wonder in. Great question on you, Cedric. Next question comes from the captain, Byron Mitchell. Shout out to the L7C Captain Byron Mitchell. His question was, obviously the Joker is Batman's arch nemesis. Who would be in the top 5 of his rogues gallery? So, with the rogues gallery, so Joker is obviously number 1, so Byron's excluding him. So who'd be the next 5? Everyone knows that Batman's rogues gallery is one of, if not the best rogues gallery in comics. It's really up to, like, if you like his rogue gallery better than Spider-Man's, because those are the top 2 who have so many different villains. So for me, if you can't put Joker number 1, then number 1 to me would be Ra's al Ghul. Reason Ra's al Ghul's would be in my number 1 outside of Joker is because the dynamic between the two of them is just, it's very intriguing. I mean, Batman has a child with Ra's al Ghul's Ra's al Ghul's daughter, Talia. And so that would make almost Ra's al Ghul his father-in-law, per se. They both have the same goals of trying to make the planet a better place, but Ra's just he'll do killing to make that means, and Batman will not. And Ra's sees Batman as an equal. Ra's wants Batman to be the next Ra's al Ghul, take over the League of Assassins, League of Shadows, wherever you're reading, and take head of that and be up top with Talia, but Batman doesn't want to do that. And also, I mean, Ra's has known this dude's secret identity for so long, but respects him so much that he wouldn't go off and tell people his secret identity. So Ra's is definitely number one. I mean, in Batman's thing, I honestly would take the League of Shadows, because then you could shape it into your own way and use it for your war against crime. But also that dynamic of Talia being Raz's daughter, Batman's lover, having a child, that's just too good. Number two, I would have Two-Face, not from a physical or mental battle standpoint with Batman, because Two-Face is one of Batman's two greatest failures in his career of Batman, because obviously you know the story of Harvey Dent. I mean, this guy was the district attorney that the city needed. He was putting these people in jail. He provided Gotham a face that everyone could get behind. So when he turned into Two-Face, that took a lot of hope out of Gotham. And Batman forever will feel bad about that one, because they were all working together, him, Gordon, and Dent, and they were putting people away. But then once he turned to Two-Face, you really saw like the good and the evil side, and that really hurt the city of Gotham. That really hurt Batman whole, because Batman saw Harvey as a friend. So now becoming this villain who's obsessed with duality and the chance of coin flipping and willing to kill people, now he's one there because he represents the absolute best and worst of Gotham literally on his face, and that hurts Batman. So then I would go to number three, and me personally, I would go to Bane. The reason for Bane is because, I mean, this guy represents like the pinnacle of like physical and mental criminality. Like, this guy, he can go physically with Batman, he can go mentally with Batman. I mean, if you know the story of Nightfall, where Bane concocted the whole plan of how he was able to break Batman's back and realizing his secret identity and all that stuff, and obviously the venom he pours into his veins makes him stronger. He's always an immediate threat when he shows up to Gotham. And most of these villains physically cannot hang with Batman, but Bane is one of the few who can, and also has a mental thing. There's a statement in Arkham Knight where one of the lackeys say, if you can't think like Joker or punch like Bane, you have no chance against Batman. So I would have Bane number three. Number four is an interesting one, because I would go, it's tough because I would want to go Hugo. The reason for Hugo is because he's so obsessed with the concept of Batman. He's incredibly smart. He was able to figure out Batman's secret identity on his own. He's very dangerous because of his intelligence. Obviously, he was the big figure in Arkham City. He wants to be Batman, and his intelligence, anytime you can match wits, you're up there. So I would put him number four. Number five, you gotta go Mr. Freeze, because Mr. Freeze is someone where I think Batman could relate to. Obviously, you know the story of Victor Freeze, his wife. Everything he does is trying to save his sick wife, Nora. Like, that is all he's trying to do. He's really not trying to do anything else. He's trying to save his wife. So in Batman's case, he's seeing someone who's doing whatever it takes to save a loved one. If he had the chance to do whatever it takes to save his dying parents who got shot in Crime Alley, he would be doing the same thing. So he sympathizes with the man, and he's willing to do anything to get his wife back, and that even means fighting Batman. So all of Batman's villains show a side of himself if something were to turn differently. So those would be my top five for you, Cap. Ra's al Ghul 1, Riddler 2, Bane 3, Hugo 4, and Mr. Freeze 5. Those would be my top 5 rogues, outside of obviously including the Joker. Next question comes from Nikki, who does our Naruto What If podcast. Shout out to Nikki. Nikki's like, who's a Marvel equivalent to Batman? And do they stand a chance against Batman in a fight? No prep, though. So this one's always an interesting question because with prep time, I mean, that's the meme, but it's been shown time and time again in comics. With prep time, Batman can literally beat anyone. Like, if he knows he has time to prepare for you, he can beat anyone. He's beaten gods. He's beaten people above gods. With prep time, it's just that is his thing because of his intelligence, his resources, his preparation, his dedication to detail. He can beat anyone with prep time. That's just how it is. So what Nikki's saying about who's a Marvel equivalent who could stand a chance with Batman in a fight, no prep time. Obviously, there's a lot of no prep time. There's a lot of people like God level who could beat Batman in a fight with no prep time, like a Thor, like a Hulk. Even though there is a comic where Batman does beat the Hulk on first encounter, you should definitely look for that and check that out. But those type of planet busters, Captain Marvel, things like that, Batman's not going to beat on a first encounter, which is fine. I mean, those are people who have superpowers. Now, if they have superpowers that he's used to, like a Superman or things like that, things could be different. But first encounter, he ain't beating them. So I focus this on people of his similarity, like physical strengths, things like that, people who are close to him. So Marvel has several counterparts, Nikki. Some you may have heard of, some you won't have heard of. First one is Nighthawk of the Squadron Supreme, and Moon Knight, who Moon Knight is getting a Disney Plus show, so everyone's going to know Moon Knight and think they're a Moon Knight expert after they get the Disney Plus show. Moon Knight has a similar role. He has similar abilities, equipment, even as a butler, so you know you're copying that from Alfred. Nighthawk has a sidekick in the Falcon. He has a Batgirl-like counterpart called Nightbird, you know, like Batgirl. He even takes on his own Batcave and Batmobile. He is very, very similar to Batman in those respects. Do I think that he would be able to beat Batman in a fight? No, I don't. I don't think not on first encounter. With Batman, it's like, you think of, if it's just straight up hand to hand, I don't think there's most people who are normal as like non-metas who'd be able to beat him. The guy knows 127 martial arts. Like, he is objectively one of the 3 best fighters in all of the DC universe. The only people I would consider putting ahead of him would be Lady Shiva and Wonder Woman. So then you go to another person who would be able, these two would be a great fight. Daredevil. Daredevil has been memed that he's just Batman without the money and blind, because he's working in Hell's Kitchen, which is his interpretation of Gotham City. He has the same dynamic relationship with Elektra that parallels Batman's relationship with Talia al Ghul or Catwoman. Frank Miller, whose take on Daredevil, and Frank Miller, who wrote The Dark Knight Returns, one of the best stories in Batman history, they take the same interpretations, like the same feel of the cities, the same relationships. So those two, and Daredevil is known as the man without fear. That man will literally fight anybody. So, and it's also been that Daredevil is more bat-like than Batman because he's blind and he navigates with his like sonar eyes, like feeling with his horns, red lenses, gives him the look. He's studied ninjutsu and Eastern mythics. Like, he can go toe to toe. He could go in a fight with Batman. But the problem with Daredevil is he doesn't have the gadgets. And he is a lawyer, but he's not intelligent like Batman, where he's mastering almost everything. So, hand to hand, that would be a very good fight, especially if you take the gadgets away, but I do think Batman will take it. One that always gets debated all the time, Captain America, who, as in the Marvel Universe, he is seen as one of the top, if not the best, greatest, besides like Iron Fist, things like that. He's one of the top 2, 3, 5 greatest martial artists in the world. And also with Captain America, he has a sidekick, like Bucky Barnes, like Robin to Batman. In terms of like personality, though, Captain America is more like Superman. He's the cape, like he's the face of the Avengers, things like that. But if you look at the similarities between Cap and Batman, is Bucky's death haunted Steve Rogers, just like Jason Todd's death haunted Batman, and they both come back as anti-hero villains, as the Red Hood and the Winter Soldier. So those are the type of similarities that they have. Now, Captain America and Batman have fought in comics. They've come to a standstill plenty of times because they're both equally skilled. And you do have to remember that Batman is the peak of physical human conditioning. He is the absolute max a normal human can get through all the training, studying, all that stuff. And Captain America is a little bit above that because of the super soldier serum, which makes him a perfect human in every shape, way, physically and strength, all that stuff. So Captain America will always have the physical. He'd be a little bit stronger than Batman, but those two have gone at it plenty of times. They've come to standstills. In one of their comic runs they were fighting, they both realized that they were each other's enemy and they worked together. So those two fighting each other would be a fantastic fight. And with that one, you could go either way. I mean, obviously Batman has the gadgets and all of that. Cap has the super soldier serum and his shield. And Captain America has decades of fighting experience. So that one can go either way. I mean, honestly, it's 50-50. It all depends on, like Stanley said, on who's writing. But that one, just hand to hand, would be something crazy. The other one who's a similar person to Batman that people have a Batman substitute, as they would say, is Iron Man. Tony Stark, obviously the billionaire, playboy, genius, philanthropist. That's the same stuff that Batman is. And as they call crime fighting with cash, they both use a lot of their money to fight crime. So those are the things that make them super serious. They're both prominent founders, leaders on their teams of being humans, the Avengers for Tony, the Justice League for Batman. Obviously, Tony is more flamboyant than Batman. I mean, everyone knows who Iron Man is. Iron Man tells you who he is. He's out in the public doing all that stuff. Bruce Wayne, he's only out in the public as Bruce Wayne to draw people's attention from him potentially being Batman. So they're very different from personality standpoint, how they do things. And Tony has his own demons that he's dealt with that they don't show like in the MCU, like alcoholism. Tony was a very big alcoholic. He was an arms dealer and all that. And his near-life experience, I mean, when the shrapnel in his chest made him change. Batman's obviously, he started a lot earlier when his parents were killed in Crime Alley. And then then Iron Man's powered up suit is a more modern take on like the bat suit. So in this fight, though, of like an Iron Man, Batman, and first encounter, because I forgot to say this in the Captain America thing, Batman already has experience fighting people like Captain America because he fights like Deathstroke. And Deathstroke is literally like an evil, anti-hero, evil version of Captain America. And that'd be a fantastic fight. Deathstroke versus Captain America. Let me know who you think would win that one. But Iron Man, that's one of the type of things that Batman doesn't really fight with people in like flying suits all the time. Now, like global stage threats, all that stuff, yes. But like all the time at Gotham, no. So in all honesty, I mean, Iron Man would be coming in with a lot more gadgets, a lot more versatility in a first encounter with Batman. So, and Batman would have to realize that because Batman, he does have his stuff that he can call on his utility belt and stuff like that. But Tony relies so heavily on the armor, while Batman relies so heavily on the man. If you can so Tony relies on his armor, Batman relies on himself. Obviously, if you take the armor out of it, Tony Stark absolutely stands no chance. He would get thrashed. He would get beaten down. It would be a laughable beatdown if you take away the armor. And like if it's just Bruce Wayne versus Tony Stark in a steel cage, he would get killed. But with the suit, Iron Man he does stand a very good chance. I could also see Iron Man winning a first encounter, but then not winning a counter ever again. Because, I mean, you've seen people with no powers beat up Iron Man. let's just go for the MCU Civil War. Even though they're both super soldiers, I mean, you could get to Iron Man if you got enough skill and start beating him up. Which Batman has the same skill, if not more skill, than Captain America in a fight, if you're just using that for your example. Obviously, Tony has more weapons on deck on him early, but if the fight prolongs and Batman starts to figure him out, then you can get him. And just thinking of the fight like that, Batman would take Tony serious because he takes every threat serious. Tony might not take Batman serious because he's a guy dressed as a bat and then get throttled. Like Tony Stark's one EMP away from going down, and then all you gotta do is just knock him out beforehand. It's happened before. I mean, the guy's been beat by people with less skill, less tech. So that's always that one. I would lean a little Iron Man first encounter, just first. But if the fight kept prolonging, he wouldn't beat Batman. Another person who echoes Batman, who in first encounter he would actually win. I mean, he's a meta-human and he's the face of Marvel. Spider-Man. Spider-Man, obviously, you see the grappling, swinging the rooftop, parkouring. Batman does the same exact stuff. Obviously, their costumes are based off of animals. Their shows in the 90s were dominating. Obviously, you have them both, the death of a family member inspiring them. And they work within their cities. Like, Batman is a city hero. Like, he's a city-level hero, and like, theoretically. And Spider-Man is also a city-level hero, just like Daredevil is a city-level hero. Batman he's a founder of the Justice League, so then he gets thrown into a world, universal, multiversal hero. But yeah, I mean, in a first encounter, Spider-Man would beat Batman in a fight, just because Spider-Man's strength, speed, his webs, I mean, it's a lot because he's never fought someone like that. Now, obviously, you throw in prep time, then yeah, it'd be a wrap. But that first fight, I mean, just because he's a meta too, he would win that one. Another person who people put against Batman in MCU, like of similar things, is Black Panther. Obviously, a wealthy person like Batman, but Black Panther is a lot wealthier than Batman, as you heard me say earlier. He's worth $90 trillion. Uses his gadgets, his genius, his martial arts, his tactician. In just a fight, it's the same thing with Tony, because where you're putting them, like these fights, you have to say where you're putting them at, things like that. Because Black Panther has a vibranium suit. Batman in current DC does not have anything that'd be able to mess with a vibranium suit, because he wouldn't know the weaknesses. Like, if you learn the weaknesses that sound actually messes up vibranium, then he'd be able to do things, but you'd have to learn that in a fight. So initially that vibranium suit would give him trouble. And also Black Panther is enhanced too with the heart-shaped herb and things like that. But he's a Captain America Deathstroke level if I'm power scaling it. But Batman has literally fought Captain America, and he has fought and beaten Deathstroke multiple times. And obviously, I mean, he's fought in metas before. So that'd be a very interesting one too, Nikki. I think Black Panther would have the advantage, though, initially because of the vibranium. Because it would take time for you to realize that sound messes up vibranium. So those are the people who are like similar to Batman. But in all honesty, I mean, Batman's feats, comic-wise, are just way above most of the people that I named. We're talking about, like, none of these people would beat Superman in a fight, period. No kryptonite, like, they're not planning in a way to beat him. I mean, Batman has beaten Superman without kryptonite as well. And we talk about the suits, like with Iron Man. People don't realize Batman has a lot of different suits that are actually supremely powerful. That's just not his style to use in Gotham, because he is a city-level hero. If he was written as a world hero to start, like that he's traveling across the world, which he has. I mean, there's stories where he goes across the world and all that stuff, but he's a city-level hero. He's fighting the villains in Gotham. Like, he has suits like the Insider suit that mimics all the abilities of the Justice League. That's actually my favorite suit. I mean, that one's just super impressive. You have the Justice Buster that is able to fight the Justice League. You obviously have the Hellbat suit, which is able to fight Darkseid, and Darkseid's stronger than all these people. And then you have the suit of Be-All suits, the final bat suit, which can literally rewrite reality cell by cell. And like, if that's just the thing, if you go through his whole house, none of these people are beating him. Like, if he's like, oh, I'm just going to randomly show up to this what if fight of people I don't know, and I'm going to take it super serious and use the final bat suit, then it's over. Point blank, period. So you got to know this guy fights, he spars with some of the best fighters in the world. Like, he's been able to fight Wonder Woman and take no damage. I would say Wonder Woman was going a little easier on him because they were sparring, but Batman was there. I mean, he's fought everyone. The dude has contingency plans on contingency plans to beat his own teammates who are stronger than everyone I just named. But the Nikki's thing was no prep. So then no prep makes things a lot more challenging, but with prep time, it'd be a wrap for all of these people. Next question comes from Pat Rick TV. Patrick, one of the L7C's top fans. He does say, we do love what if battles on the L7C. If you haven't checked those out, check out our Naruto what if battles. They come out once a month. Actually got one coming up in these next couple of weeks. Sasuke versus Kitamaru, curse mark level 2. So that plug is there. This one is always debated too. Who would win in a fight? Kevin McAllister from Home Alone with unlimited prep time versus Batman, normal gadgets, no prep time. The battle happens in the Home Alone house. So this question, the reason this question is so funny is because those are two people who are memed out with prep time. They can beat anyone from anyone. So Patrick's giving Kevin unlimited prep time. He's giving Batman normal gadgets, so nothing crazy, no prep time. And Batman is coming to Kevin's house. So honestly, if we're doing it from a story standpoint, you'd have to find a reason why Batman would be going to Kevin's house. Let's just say he's tipped off the Joker's at the house and he has a kid hostage, which is Kevin. And then Kevin knows that some scary dude in a bat costume is coming to take him away. So Batman's going to enter in there. I mean, if you've seen the Home Alone movies, you know this dude Kevin can plan for absolutely anything. And he has unlimited prep time. So that means he could study Batman for as much as a child can. Try and learn his gadgets, capabilities, things of that nature. And Batman be walking into a house blind, which he has, even though it wouldn't. I'm saying blind is no prep time, but he'll be able to map out the area and things like that. So it's one of those things that where, I mean, if Batman gets one hand on him, Kevin's done, obviously. He's a child. He's going against a grown man with 127 martial arts, 9 PhDs or whatever he has, an IQ of 190 to 210. Like, so, and it's like, what is Kevin going to be hitting this dude with? Because you're doing it in the Home Alone universe. Batman could obviously take a broomstick to the head, as I stated for Sedge's question, his armor and all that stuff. He can obviously take any house appliance to the bat suit. So it's like, how would Kevin knock him out? That's the thing. But if you're doing it from a story perspective, I think the reason I'm going to say Kevin's going to win, not because he would actually knock out Batman, put him away, anything like that. It's because Batman would stop fighting and be impressed by Kevin. Because he would be like, this guy, Kevin, this child, has this innate ability to prep and all things like that. And honestly, to be honest, Kevin would win too because Kevin would become a Robin. Because Batman would be like, hey, I can offer you a path with all this skills. Because Patrick, just equate Kevin McAllister to like a Tim Drake. So I would think Kevin would ultimately win because Batman would be so impressed by him, he'd stop, say you win, and offer him to be a Robin. Obviously, they came to hands. That's not a question, but Kevin would become a new Robin, and you got a prep timing Kevin and a prep timing Batman patrolling the streets of Gotham as Batman and Robin. I mean, it'd be kind of GG's for the rest of Gotham. Next couple questions had come in. If you had a day, this comes from Courtney. If you had a day with Batman, how would you spend it? What would you do? And this was towards me. I mean, honestly, a day, it'd be tough if you're doing it from a storyline, like real life perspective, because he's at Wayne Enterprises in the morning or he's sleeping. and then going to Wayne Enterprise in the afternoon. Then he's patrolling at night. So I think my biggest thing that I would want to do in a day with Batman is obviously just see how he goes about once he gets back from Wayne Enterprises. Like, what's his thought process when he's patrolling? How is he thinking about taking down criminals? How is he always 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of everybody else? That's what I would want to sit down at a mastermind with him. Obviously, I don't want to train with him as well, but I'm a normal human. And even though he's a normal human, the training, if you haven't seen the Batman Files, normal humans cannot do. So it would be stuff like that. And just talking about him, about his psychology, about his mindset, about how he gets things done. I mean, I do like to pride myself on getting a whole bunch of things done in a day and not being tired, but he takes it to a whole different level. So those would be the type of things. Just sitting down, talking with him. I mean, maybe in the Batmobile, chatting it up as he's beating up criminals. I'm just handing out his gadgets to him. About like, hey, why did you throw that punch there? This, that, getting in his head. Like, that'd be the type of thing I would love to do in a day. If I had a long time, then obviously train and stuff like that. Next question comes from the L7C's, quote unquote, Iron Man. The first podcast on the L7C, Mitch Oso, our Dragon Ball expert, which he also has an episode coming out soon, so definitely check that out. His question was, if Batman's gimmick, which is obviously the bats, if he didn't have the fear of bats, what would his gimmick be? What would his suit be? Which is actually a very good question, because if you take away, the bat thing, what would his suit be? Same circumstances, all that, but what would his suit be? Obviously, Mitch, you can look to the different multiversal counterparts of Batman. You can look at the Watchmen. I mean, because Batman was in 1939, which is the second super of all time behind Superman, so he'd be able to copyright these things before any of these people would have got to it. You could obviously look at something like he'd be an owl. I mean, owls are things of the night. So you obviously have Night Owl from Watchmen. So he'd probably take that name before Night Owl could get it, in all honesty. Or you also have Owlman, who's Thomas Wayne Jr. on Earth 3. That's been also used for evil interpretations for Batman. Crisis on 2 Earths. You see Owlman make a bomb that would destroy the entire multiverse. So you see Batman's planning, genius, and prep time in an evil way and see how dangerous it could really be. So it would have to be a Night Owl, Owlman. It had to be something with like owls, things of like the night. There's other creatures of the night that you could potentially look at. You could look at foxes. I mean, you could be like Foxman, but then that doesn't really sound too menacing. Be like, oh, it's the Black Fox or the Dark Fox. Dark Fox is fine, but you're definitely looking at owls. You're looking at owls. You're maybe looking at cougars, maybe cougars of the night, like a dark cougar, things like that. Because you have to keep those animals that I named. You can still have the cave. You can still have them around. I mean, just imagine being in the Bat Cave and now it's a cougar cave. And you have a whole bunch of dark cougars walking around and not bats. That's almost kind of more scary than bats. Or owls, like a dark owl. Like the dark owl is fine. They might have done something with the Talons, who he's enemies with, the Court of Owls. They might have flipped that and made the Court of Owls good guys and him the leader. So those would be the type of things that I think he would be if his gimmick wasn't bats. Next really question is that like who Batman has 3 main lovers. The third one's not really a main one, but people put them together all the time because they have had a relationship in the shows. Obviously Catwoman, Talia al Ghul, Wonder Woman. Who's my favorite one with Batman? My favorite one with Batman, just because I watched the Justice League cartoons when I was littler, was Wonder Woman. Because Wonder Woman, obviously they're so different, as Batman said. She comes from an immortal race of Amazons, and he's a rich kid with issues. Lots of issues. They had a whole bunch of chemistry in the show. I mean, they wanted to date. And, I mean, she checks all of Batman's boxes. The biggest box is that he wouldn't have to worry about his enemies, like, taking her hostage. Like, you're talking about the strongest woman in the world and one of the strongest heroes in the Justice League, a founder, the best unarmed combatant out there. in the top 3 with him, her, Batman, Lady Shiva. So he wouldn't have to worry about any of that. Shoot, she would probably be saving him more than him saving her more. Like, oh, Bane's here. Let me just show up, beat him up, leave. Let's go out on a date. So she would check all the boxes because he also wouldn't have to worry about her dying by like normal means. She can get shot, but I mean, her invincible bracelets would just block them. So those are things like that. That's my favorite one. Obviously, the one that goes is Catwoman with their long history. And that was really not my favorite, but I understand just because, I mean, they've been put together since like the 1930s. The most interesting one is obviously Talia. I do feel like if Batman and Talia actually got married, it would boost Batman's power across the world significantly, because then he'd be the head of the League of Assassins, League of Shadows. He'd be able to mold that in his image. He could turn all those assassins into non-killing bat people if he really wanted to. And then all the extra wealth, Batman having access to the Lazarus Pit, which would be crazy. So obviously the one that the comics just put together is the Bat and the Cat. The most interesting one to me for Batman even growing more powerful is him and Talia. And my favorite one, is Batman and Wonder Woman. So those were really all the questions that we had for this Batman Day podcast. Really appreciate everyone sending the questions in. Really had fun diving in, doing all the research for everyone's questions so I could give them the best accurate question that I can. And yeah, I mean, Batman Day, September 18th, like I said, is always the third Saturday of September. Super excited. Everyone knows how big a Batman fan I am. So, I mean, the guy is a cultural icon. I mean, he's the only superhero to be on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Like, the dude, if you don't know, like, he is an icon. Hopefully, we get some new Batman stuff. There's going to be some new stories coming out, HBO Max, things like that for Batman Day. Hopefully, Matt Reeves maybe drops the Batman second trailer before DC Fandom. Like, maybe we get a new game, things like that. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Again, thank you everyone for listening to this special Batman Day episode. If you have any more questions, shoot them in the comments. Be happy to answer them in your comments. And yeah, Batman Day, September 18th. Make sure you check out everyone else on the L7C. Got some good stuff coming in soon. And yeah, take care. Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.